People, we are Tottenham TV back here for another Tottenham update. And you know where we're going to start, guys. We're going to start on the manager situation. Mr. Ange Postecoglou, as Alistair Gold has given us a little bit of an update today, says a decision over Ange Postecoglou's future as Tottenham Hotspur head coach is unlikely to take place this week. No meetings are understood to have taken place before Postecoglou departed on his holiday. There remains a chance that he could remain as head coach, as he does retain the full backing of the dressing room. And after ending Spurs' trophy drought, there is a huge surge of gratitude from the fans and a feeling among them that he's earned the right to carry on next season. We have heard like kind of conflicting reports on social media from various ITKs or whatever that there was a meeting that has taken place, but Ali Gold says there hasn't been.
Yeah, who really knows the truth, in all honesty. But in terms of we're not going to find out this week, it's a bit ridiculous, to be honest. We are falling behind in the transfer market. It's not just about whether he stays or goes, but we need to make a decision quickly so that we can get our transfer plans in place so we're ready for next season. You got Man United making big moves in the market. They've apparently going to agree a deal for Liam Delap. They've agreed a deal for Matthias Cunha. You've got Liverpool, Arsenal, Newcastle.
Very heavily invested in Mbeumo as well.
Potentially in Mbeumo, like Newcastle apparently also in for Mbeumo. Everyone's making moves. And while we're sitting here deciding what we want to do going forward for next season, we're falling behind in going for these kind of players, because now we're in the Champions League, we're going to be kind of shopping in a very similar pool of players to a lot of the Champions League clubs. People like Mbeumo, people like Cunha, Delap. We should be going for these kind of players, and they're already getting snapped up because we're sitting here delaying our kind of our move for next season for the manager. We're delaying what we want to do. We're deciding, we're thinking. And while we're doing that, all these players that we should be in for are getting snapped up, and they're getting signed early because the transfer window opens soon. There's I think a week transfer window before the Club World Cup.
Yeah, it opens 1st of June.
1st of June, so that it's open very, very soon. I know it's only a week, and maybe Tottenham think, we're not going to sign anyone in that window. But other teams aren't thinking that. They're thinking we've got a week to get a few players in before the season starts, even if we're not in that Club World Cup, and we're going to take advantage of it, and they are taking advantage of it. So, by the end of the week, that window is going to be open already, and we're going to let that window pass us by. And we're not going to be able to make moves in the market while we're doing this, because if we're talking to a player, they're going to want to know who's going to be the manager, what's the situation going forward next season, and these are questions we can't answer. And that's not a serious kind of project or a serious sell to a player when we can't tell them who's even going to be the manager going into the next season right now. So we need to make that decision quickly. And we know my feelings. As Ali Gold said, he's got the backing in the dressing room. I think the fans, for sure, I think the majority of fans are now on side with him. Yes, there are quite a few fans who are still not, but looking at, I've done a few polls yesterday, had about nearly 7,000 votes on it, and there's about 66% Ange in, which was a pretty good barometer, I think, during the season as to how the fans felt. I feel when we were doing those polls a lot during the season, like they were very much it was Ange in at one point, and then it was flipping at certain points, and I think it was actually quite a good barometer as to how the fans are feeling. I do think there's obviously a vocal minority, and look, fair enough if you don't think Ange should stay in, but I do think the majority right now, if you look at the parade, look at the stadium, how they're chanting his name, I do think right now majority of fans want him to get another season and see where it goes. So I want that to happen as well. But regardless, surely there was talk before, right, before the final, that regardless of whether we win, he was going to be sacked. And also there was talk that we were quite a way down the line of vetting down our manager list and looking for replacements. And if you're really not sure and you want to get rid, so who you got lined up? You got someone lined up that's ready to go and ready to pull the trigger on? We haven't heard anything about anyone being close or anything. So it's just frustrating at the moment.
Yeah, look, planning and foresight have never been this club's strongest point, let's be honest. And he is big frustration. The decision should have been made a long time ago, whether they want to keep him or get rid of him at the end of the season, regardless of the Europa League run. We knew we were in a quarter-final. We knew there was a good chance to get to the final. Once you get into a final, it's 50-50 whether you win it. So they had to have a plan in place for both scenarios, whether we won it or when we lost it. I think if we would have lost that final, I think he would have been gone by now, and they would have got rid of him. So now we've won the final. They do have a decision to make, but that decision should have been made before. And when you're seeing the good feeling around the club now with the fans, with the players, and I think you have to keep him. And I think the decision should be made already. We should be having plans for the transfer window and moving forward a long time ago. Like clubs have been planning for this transfer window for the last 3 or 4 months, and we doesn't seem like we've given it a thought in hell. Like we don't even know who our manager's going to be, director of football is going to be, and it's just very, very frustrating. And it's like kind of putting a dampener on the mood a little bit, because it was such a unbelievable week that we've had in the history of this football club, winning a European competition, the parade that happened, stuff that we've dreamed of our whole lives. And now we just want to look forward to next season and look forward to the Champions League and look forward to hopefully more success. And we just don't know what that looks like because all plans are getting put on hold. And like you say, it's very true. We're just falling behind at the moment. And when you look at Manchester United, they're the ones that don't have Champions League football. They finished 16th. They look like the only top club that are in a worse mess than us. And they're getting top deals done. And they're linked to top players. And we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the chairman to make a decision on the manager.
Yeah, because they've made a decision regardless of the final. They were going to stick with him. And so it's easier to plan. And that Cunha deal was lined up, regardless of whether they were in the final, was lined up. They said before the final, they said the day after the final, Amorim is staying, he's our manager next season. It wasn't even a decision, really. And so they've planned for it. And because we won the final, right, I'm sitting here saying I want Ange to stay, but because we won the final, all of a sudden, this board has all this indecision and they don't know what to do and they don't know whether to sack him or not. But they've got to be decisive. They've got to just make a decision as quickly as possible, because all this sitting and waiting and being in limbo, it's obviously not good for the fans, but it's mostly not good for the club at all. It's not good for the players. It's not good for our ability in the transfer market, not good for the recruitment. All of it is being put on hold. And you can't stand still in this industry. Football moves so quickly. And if you're not on the pulse every second, then you're falling behind. And that's what's happening right now.
Yeah. And for Ali Gold to say it's unlikely to take place this week, we need it this week. With that transfer window open next week, surely, if Ange is going to be here for the foreseeable, they would have drawn up some sort of list.
You have to say, if it's not going to be this week, then it's already going to be too late for this upcoming window.
For the upcoming one, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
But surely, aside from that, if the decision is to keep Ange, you would have thought, you would have hoped, you would have prayed that there have been kind of meetings and discussions take place that if he would have stayed, these are the targets that we're going to be going for.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess if they decide to keep him, let's say at the beginning of next week when the window opens Sunday, right? If the decision comes by then hopefully in that following week we can look at a few targets and try go for a few targets.
Yeah, I agree, but you want to kind of lay the groundwork before then to get those deals done, and it's going to make it difficult. And the flip side, if we don't stick with him, right, and we bring in a new guy, first of all, we have to get a guy. We have to go on a managerial search. Hopefully, you would have thought if they decided to sack him, they have someone lined up.
Yeah.
But knowing this club, that's not definite. And they're gonna have to draw up their own list. They're gonna have to assess the squad themselves and see who they want to keep and who they don't. That's all gonna take time, like piecing out all these problems and all these different things and who they want, who they don't want. And even when it comes to the transfer window coming up, we're probably even going to be late for that one, I would say, if we sack Ange.
This transfer window, by the way, coming up, I think is a bit ridiculous. They're putting the whole transfer window on hold pretty much just for 32 teams in world football that are in a competition. What about the hundreds of other teams?
What do you mean?
The transfer window, they're opening it for a week, closing it for the Club World Cup, and then opening it again, right?
Yeah. There's
only 32 teams in this competition.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of other teams that just want to get their business done. Why does everything need to be put on hold just for these 32 teams?
It's not. This window usually wouldn't exist.
Why not? Because the transfer window usually just opens straight after the season.
Doesn't it open in July?
I thought it just opened June the 1st always.
Can't remember. I thought it was July, wasn't it? They didn't. They haven't closed it.
They're opening it and then closing it.
Yeah, they're making two windows rather than
That's
just
what
one.
I'm saying. Rather than why not just make it just one?
I thought it would have opened when the Club World Cup was ending. Anyway, that's when it would have opened.
The Club World Cup, this is the first time the Club World Cup is in this format, right?
No, I understand.
So what usually happens is that at the end of the season, around June the 1st time, the transfer window opens. This is an exception.
No, I understand what you're saying. I thought it opens July 1st. Is it not July 1st, or was it always June 1st?
I thought it was always June the 1st, but I could be wrong on that.
No, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. No, I hear you. But either way, to be honest, when it comes to the opening of the window, as soon as the season ends, the window is basically open. People make signings and things. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter if it's officially open or not. Like, the deals get done and the talks start.
That's true. But there's this whole emphasis of opening and closing the window.
So you can actually bring them in rather than just talks. I guess.
Yeah, I know, but I just think it's a bunch of nonsense, really.
Yeah, well, they just want they want a bit of hype for this tournament, right? So if they can get some new signings, teams make some new signings before this tournament, it just adds to the hype.
Yeah, well, I'm saying just keep open though. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't understand why they're closing again. No, I agree with that.
All right, let's move on and let's talk about this Romero post that he did on social media yesterday, which we all found very interesting, sent Spurs social media into a bit of overdrive yesterday. And he says, "We achieved what we wanted this season as a group, and that's what matters. And my name is part of history of this beautiful club, Tottenham Hotspur. I want to thank you all for the love and support every day, despite everything. But I have no doubt that staying together led us to success. We must continue. And this is the path." I mean, there's been
those words.
Yeah, those last words are the key words there. And there's been a lot of talk around the season around Atletico Madrid, even Real Madrid. Romero with those comments saying he would love to play in Spain one day. Everyone was taking that as saying Romero definitely wants to leave this summer. Romero is definitely leaving.
And also he had
this
that
summer.
post just after the final, didn't he?
And is that 100% that as well. Basically, everyone's been so certain, including us, that Romero is going to be leaving at the end of the summer, going to play for Simeone. Everyone was saying it's a match made in heaven, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, those comments don't exactly suggest someone that's desperate to leave and someone that is definitely leaving this summer.
Well, it's very deliberate, it must be, because he did this whole post after the final, and it very much, everyone was saying that reads like a goodbye speech. That reads like he's off, right? He was just saying how I've etched my name and Tottenham legacy by winning the trophy. And I can't remember exactly the words, but he was saying something along the lines of, that's the way I wanted to be in the Tottenham legacy by winning a trophy and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, that kind of sounds like a goodbye. And then after a few days, he does a second post kind of out of nowhere, just out of the blue. He does this post.
After not turning up to the last game.
After not turning up, with everyone basically speculating that he's off, he does his second post yesterday saying, we must continue, this is the path. And he also very crucially says, I have no doubt that staying together led us to success. I think that is a very interesting line, because with all the speculation surrounding Ange Postecoglou, with all the will he, won't he stay, I think when he says, I have no doubt that staying together led us to success, I think that is very much a shot at the board saying, you need to keep Ange. I think that's kind of what he's alluding to, in my opinion.
Yeah, and on top of that, we did hear from Dan Kilpatrick yesterday that said Romero's future could be very much aligned to Ange Postecoglou's future, and if Ange was to leave, potentially, what he was suggesting that if Ange was to leave, Romero could potentially look to leave as well. And then on top of that, we get this post today, or last night, whenever it was. I don't know, man. This makes me think, like, from what I'm getting from that is, if Ange stays, Romero's going to stay.
That kind of how it reads to me. He says, we must continue, this is the path. But that's also very interesting when he says, we must continue. So he's kind of saying, that is kind of him saying, surely, why would he say that if he's looking to leave, we must continue? Like, he's saying, this is what I want to do going forward. This is how we want to be. And again, for all I understand, like, we're 17th, we finished a diabolical league season, everything, but you've got a guy who's very clearly a winner, Romero. He wants to be competing at the top. This guy's won World Cups, he's now won that Europa League, and obviously he sees what's inside the dressing room. He's one of the leaders in the dressing room, and he understands we've finished 17. I'm sure he's not happy with that league finish, but he's the one saying, we must continue, this is the path. That's what he's saying. And so a lot of people, think that they know better than what Romero is seeing in the dressing room, and they know better than him, and wanting to change everything up and get rid of Ange, where he's saying, no, trust this guy, he's a good manager, and believe in him. That's what he's trying to say. So I think it's very, very interesting. Do you think, not specifically that post, but if Romero's future is tied to Ange, does that influence the board's decision?
I think it very well could do, because we heard as well, I think it was Dan Kilpatrick that said it, or another journalist said that Daniel Levy is going to do his utmost to keep Cuti Romero at the club. So if they're split on it, and if the fans are backing Ange right now, or the vast majority of them are, he has the full support of the board, of the changing room, and Cuti Romero is coming out with stuff like that, and Daniel Levy's desperate to keep him at the club. Everything kind of does suggest that Ange Postecoglou, then he probably will try and keep Ange Postecoglou here next season.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, it shouldn't really, in terms of when you're looking at how the board, like for example, like Kane loved Mourinho, doesn't mean they should keep. Well, that doesn't mean they decided to keep him just because Kane loved him. It was like different, but
it's different.
But right now, yeah, it's like
it's different because first of all, Ange has just delivered a major piece of silverware, first European Cup since in 41 years, first trophy in 17 years. There's such a good feeling around the club right now, probably the best that we've ever witnessed. He retains the full backing of the dressing room, the full backing. So Mourinho never retained the full backing of the dressing room. And he's also retaining the backing of vast majority of fans as well. So I think it's very different to the Mourinho situation.
Imagine we get a double I'm staying announcement, Romero and the weird thing is, right, I was thinking about this in terms of the club make a decision. If they do decide to keep him, do they make a statement or do they just like put it out there with journalists and stuff?
I think.
Yeah, they're not going to make a statement, are they?
No.
So I think anyone waiting for them to make a statement.
No, it's not going to be. The statement only comes if he's leaving.
Exactly, because if they make a statement, it's the dreaded vote of confidence, which is not what you want in a way. You don't want because if they make a statement that he's staying, it's almost like they're admitting we were looking to sack him.
But it almost is like a vote of confidence, though, even without making a statement, like just the indecision. I
agree with that. Yeah, but I'm just saying, like a lot of people saying, "Oh, we haven't heard anything from the club and everything," which is true but we haven't heard any stories or anything. I'm just saying, don't expect a statement from the club if he's staying.
But I still don't think Romero signs a contract, though. That's the thing. Like, we need him to sign a contract. I just can't see him signing it still. Like, if he knows the club are going through this indecision, he probably knows that the club can pull the trigger at any point next season, right? So if the club pulls the trigger, is Romero going to all of a sudden say, "Oh, I want to leave"? Then, so why would he sign a contract?
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, you're probably right about that. I think it's unlikely he signs one.
And if he doesn't sign a contract, will Daniel Levy end up looking to sell him this summer?
I think he'll want to be honest.
That's the thing. So it's still even if Romero wants to stay, because Ange is here, it doesn't mean he will stay this summer, in my
Unless
opinion.
he signs a 1-year extension.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I can see, maybe.
I think a 1-year extension probably suits all parties at this point. Richarlison, big up to Richie, because he's been called up to Carlo Ancelotti's first Brazil squad in the upcoming international break. Big up to Richie.
Yeah, fair play to him. And it looked for a while that maybe his Brazil career might be over, all the injuries and struggling to get in the Tottenham team. But I think Ancelotti's appointment may be a blessing for him, because Ancelotti obviously had him at Everton. He was really good under him. He knows him well, knows what kind of striker or player he is, knows when he's at his best how good he can be. And even though he's not been in like amazing form, although to be fair, I think recently when he's played, he's been quite good. Like
he's done a good job.
He scored a few goals as well. Like even like when we were playing like Forest and around that time, he was scoring quite a few goals. So I wouldn't say he's back on form, but he's been performing all right. But I think Ancelotti's lucky. I think if another manager comes in and doesn't know him as well, maybe he doesn't get the call. But thankfully for him, Ancelotti's got that. He's his manager now in Brazil, and maybe he's got a good chance of re-establishing himself in the national team.
Yeah, absolutely. So big up to Richie. Well done for that.
And that'll do wonders for his confidence,
I think so. Yeah, completely agree. And last but not least, pre-season plans. As Spurs have confirmed that they are going back to Korea to face Newcastle this summer as part of the 2025 Kupang Played series. So that means Arsenal in Hong Kong, followed by Newcastle in Korea, and then to the Allianz in Germany to face Bayern Munich.
Quite a pre-season lined up, yeah. And also, they're just milking every little with Son probably last season. First of all, that also implies that he's probably definitely staying now. If we're going to Korea in the summer, I don't think we go there if Son's leaving. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I think it's a weird thing to say a pre-season friendly being arranged is confirmation of a player staying, but it probably is.
Probably, I totally agree. Like, I think this is like the last hurrah, isn't it? The last bit of big revenue that Spurs can get from Son in terms of going to Korea. look, we don't know how Yang's going to turn out, and Yang will be there as well, which will be, something added from last season's tour. I know Yang was there, but he played against us instead of playing for us. But now they'll be playing together, and it'll be good to see. It really will be good to see. But that is the pre-season plans. I'm sure there'll be more friendlies announced as well, some lower league teams before they go out on the tour, and maybe a home game to finish it off towards the end. And obviously we've got the Super Cup as well just after the season starts, and potentially we haven't heard anything about it, but the UEFA CONBALL Challenge Cup or whatever it's called against Racing Club, I'm led to believe, but we'll have to wait for that to be confirmed. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories brought to you today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, come on you Spurs.